Bisping's life as a combatant goes back to his youth in northwestern England, fighting for the first time at the young age of 10. Later, he went on to become the British Jiu-Jitsu champion and a 5-time national kickboxing champion, not to mention all the street brawls that punctuated his journey to professional fighting. The street fights are now a distant memory, but his innate aggression still fuels his ferocity in the cage as well as in the gym. You gotta train the way you fight. Some people are lazy the way they train and they go out and fight hard and they gas. Sometimes it works out, they might win quickly in the first round, but if they get dragged into deep water, it's not going to work out too well for them. It's a method that's proving successful. Trainer Scott Prohaska, who joined the Bisping team a few years ago, developed his explosiveness and power. Tiki Gon serves as the jack-of-all-trades MMA coach, pulling all of Bisping's striking skills together and package them up appropriately for the cage. Lastly, there's Brady Fink, a Polista BJJ black belt responsible for the Count's ground game. Like any quality camp, they bring in world-class strikers and grapplers to prepare for every fight. Grappling. There's no doubt about Bisping's skill in the striking department. His quickness, coupled with his technical boxing skills, has been a challenge for every fighter he's encountered. While pundits have questioned his ability to deal with top-level grapplers, according to Gon, Michael Bisping is a complete martial artist. A lot of people underestimate that because he's such a good striker. There's a whole side of Michael Bisping no one's ever seen, and it's his grappling side. He's right up there with all the top guys. Fink, the friendly grappling coach, enthusiastically agrees. Mike's grappling is good, no doubt about it. He's keen of every position, every move. He knows when you're tricking him. We do 2 hours of grappling practice every morning and a structured wrestling class a few times a week. We bring in top-tier wrestlers from all over, guys competing in the Olympic trials and things like that, and they can't take him down. Mike is a professional athlete and he trains like one, period. Still, while his coaches recognize that his ground game is solid, they know it's what he can do with his fists that will keep him winning fights. Striking. In Mike's fights, he gets these guys back up, gets them on the fence, and then batters the living shit out of them and they can't do anything about it, says Gon. There's a reason this is happening, a method. Gon takes the Count's already supreme striking skills and then fine-tunes them for MMA, adjusting his footwork and punching for optimal position to either shoot down his takedowns or effectively evade them. Boxing footwork works in MMA, but it has to be modified. You have to take into consideration getting kicked in the leg, getting shot on. Your footwork could be wrong in that you could be stepping right into position for getting taken down. You can't turn the side of your leg towards your opponent. Your front foot has to be pointed at your opponent at all times. I've argued this with boxing coaches time and time again. They say, no, it's going to take all the power off your hooks, your jabs, and your cross. Go ahead, generate all the power you want. But when I kick your leg off or I take you down, what are you going to do? There's no two ways about it. You cannot turn your foot. Gon and Bisping do 3 to 5 minute rounds on the pads at a high intensity pace 4 or more times a week, and depending on who Bisping will be fighting, they'll just adjust their methods. If you were to fight a wrestler, I'd incorporate takedowns into the pad work. I tend to get more involved. I'll throw the shin guards in, I'll punch him, I'll kick him, I'll force him to move. If it's a day when he's going to spar, it'll be more interactive. Other days, he'll just kill the pads for cardio. The lessons delivered during striking sessions are intended to translate into the cage, as each day of pad work precedes an evening of sparring. On Monday, it's boxing pad work, then sparring. Thai pads are used on Wednesdays for kickboxing sparring, and come Friday, everything is fused together for MMA. Endurance. Every morning before heading to grappling practice at UTC, Bisping wakes up and runs 3.5 to 5 miles to start the day. It's actually something Coach Scott Prohaska has toned down, saying that cardio was the main area where Bisping would overtrain. Rather than long-distance pavement pounding, they turned up the dial on sprints and intervals. I always give him sprints to do after each workout, starting at 10-second sprints with a 50-second jog. I add 5 seconds to the sprints and reduce the jog by 5 seconds every week, says Prohaska. When Bisping's in the gym, he heeds to his belief in training the way he fights. Every time I train, it's with 5 5-minute rounds. If I were working with a strategy coach, it would be 5 5-minute rounds of intense, hard work after a warm-up of high-intensity pads. I'll be doing wrestling one day with 3 or 4 guys around me trying to take me down. We do rounds and rounds and rounds, and I'm the guy in the middle. As soon as I deal with one person, boom, the next one's in. That builds endurance. Explosive power will win fights. The key with him, and I think the future of sport, is explosive lifting. With all other things being equal with tactics and technique, the guy with more strength and power will win, says Prohaska. We've found that when he gets more explosive in the gym, he gets way more athletic and powerful in the cage. Prohaska's program is scheduled around the lead-up time to Bisping's fights, going through 2 separate phases of 4 weeks each. While there's a set plan, it's malleable and can be adjusted based on Bisping's performance and overall health. The first 4 weeks we do full-body lifts, focusing on lower rep ranges to build strength and some functional hypertrophy, or usable strength. The next 4 weeks we start getting explosive with his lifting. I switch him to an all-lower body on Tuesdays and an all-upper workout on Thursdays. This allows my Michael to focus on the area I want exploding, while allowing me to manage his fatigue, his soreness, and his nervous system much easier. On upper body days, Prohaska makes it a point to finish with Cuban presses, external rotations with cables, or other rotator cuff exercises for increasing punching power. Rotator cuffs are important because they're the decelerator of the punch. The stronger they are, the more you can take advantage of the strength you build. Leg days consist of 3 to 5 leg exercises, as we always finish with a lot of core anti-rotational stuff, like a dragonfly where he's got to stabilize his hips against pressure I'm putting on him. If he's able to brace his torso on his hips and not get turned, that's the key with training off the ground. Prohaska uses what he calls contrast training to peak Bisping and to translate his strength gains to functional performance in a fight. Contrast training is where he would do a heavy weight or an isometric pull and then go right into an explosive jump. And that way he's able to use his strength and express it in movements of the sport. The brass and cocky fighter has always been an outspoken man who could easily back up his arrogance inside of the octagon. Bisping's journey in sports combat began at the age of 8, where he started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At the age of 15, Bisping had his first taste of competition as he competed as an amateur in Britain's first no-holds-barred competition, Knockdown Sport Budo, KSBO. By the age of 19, Bisping was also training in boxing, kickboxing, and karate, and ventured into kickboxing as a career. During his time in kickboxing, Bisping won the Northwest Area title and Pro-British Light Heavyweight Kickboxing Championship. Following a brief hiatus from the sport, Bisping returned to training and had his first official professional fight at Pride and Glory 2 Battle of the Ages on April 10, 2004. Bisping managed to score a TKO over his opponent, Steve Matthews. However, Bisping continued to knock out his opponents. John Weir, Mark Epstein, Andy Bridges, and Dave Radford fell to Bisping's dangerous striking. For 2 years, Bisping continued to score impressive wins that got him the cage fight and RX3 Light Heavyweight Championship. Eventually, Bisping got himself an opportunity on Season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter and trained under Tito Ortiz. Coming in, Bisping had an undefeated record of 10-0, and Christian Rothermel and Ross Poynton failed to break that streak in the quarter and semifinal bouts of the competition. In the finals, it didn't take long for Bisping to put away Josh Haynes, as the Count clipped him with a devastating knee and finished him off with punches. Michael Bisping is now fighting in the biggest MMA promotion in America with a 6-figure paycheck. Add in the fact that the middleweight has an undefeated record of 11-0, Bisping seemed primed to be a star on the rise. The UFC star remained undefeated in his first year of the promotion, beating Eric Schaefer and Matt Hamill. Bisping's rise in the UFC rankings saw him face the toughest challenge of his career at UFC 78, former UFC light heavyweight champion Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans was a beast during his early UFC career, with the UFC star coming in undefeated with a professional record of 10-0-1. So 2 fighters enter with an undefeated streak. Which man suffered his first professional loss? That would end up being Bisping, who gave it his all until the very end. While the crushing defeat sent Bisping back down in the rankings a bit, the UFC star focused on mistakes he made during the fight against Evans and carried that forward into his next fights. A renewed Bisping made easy work of Charles McCarthy and Jason Day, with his third victory over Chris Leben putting him back in contention for the middleweight title. Next, Bisping got a chance to become the new contender for the 185-pound title. However, he had to beat Dan Henderson first. Henderson has been battle-tested thanks to his fights against Rich Franklin, Anderson Silva, and Quinton Jackson, thus the middleweight had experience on his side. That experience got the better of Bisping, who suffered a second-round knockout for the first time in his MMA career. Once again, it was back to the drawing board for Bisping. The UFC star had to readjust his training to fix the weakness that allowed him to suffer the first knockout of his career. For strength and conditioning, Bisping did trap bar jumps, Swiss bar bench presses with 6 or 4 chains, weight chin-ups, prowler rope pull-ins and pushback, lateral raises with neck isolation, and dragonflies. For a circuit training workout routine, the bag lift and spin, kettlebell lunge, bunny hop, ground and pound tuck jump, shuttle run, and top point box were his daily exercises. In terms of his diet, Bisping ate porridge, fruit, and peanut butter for breakfast. For lunch, tuna and pita bread carried him over to dinner, which consisted of turkey and vegetables. A protein shake finished off Bisping's day in terms of meals. After 12 years of fighting professionally, Michael Bisping has finally won the top prize in the middleweight division. Bisping clipped Rockhold with 2 left fists in the first round, and the rest was history. It didn't take long for the newly crowned UFC middleweight champion to defend his title as Bisping fought Dan Henderson at UFC 204. This was the first time that these two had fought each other since 2009, where Henderson handed Bisping his first TKO loss. History didn't repeat itself on October 8, 2016, as Bisping and Henderson had a wild back-and-forth contest that saw the Count retain his title via unanimous decision. Bisping ultimately retired from in-ring competition altogether, citing that he started having issues in his good eye as well. Bisping didn't want to go blind, so he had no problem hanging up the gloves for good. Since then, Bisping was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2018 and has been a sports analyst for the company ever since. While I'm sure the brash fighter didn't go out the way he wanted to, Michael Bisping still had an amazing MMA career.